Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning. We have a lot to cover, and as you see, we're already up to 7 waves. That's a good start to the morning. And though Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will not be in the studio today, we didn't have anything scheduled. I have a couple updates from the Assemblyman, so it's kind of like a spin-off of Fridays with Phil. I look forward to. Well, let's kick off with one of them, as a matter of fact. The other day, I asked if anybody had attended the 175th celebration of Corning Incorporated, and I received some really great photos and some more information on it. It was past my bedtime, I'm not going to lie. But I hear the fireworks were spectacular. I understand that they hired food trucks, food vendors, to provide free meals, anything you wanted. It sounded like it was quite a celebration. So on Wednesday of this week, Corning Inc. marked its 175th anniversary. The day began with a recognition ceremony at Corning's corporate headquarters. Let's go through some photos. I think they're out of order from what I'm describing here. But there was company leaders, local elected officials, and community leaders who came together to honor the long-standing connection between Corning and the community it calls home. The program included opening remarks from Millicent Ruffin, Division Vice President, Corning Community Impact, followed by a proclamation from New York State Senator Tom O'Mara. City of Corning Mayor Pam Walker then presented Wendell Weeks, Corning Chairman, CEO, and President, and Kim Frock, Executive Head of the Alternative School for Math and Science. We've had Ms. Frock on the program before. I would also add that the proclamation was not just from Tom O'Mara, it was from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and Assemblyman Chris Frank, because I'm going to show you that picture in just a moment. And what was really, I think, very special was a paid tribute to Corning's longest-standing retiree, Eileen Holtzman. At 105 years old, Holtzman represents generations of employees whose dedication has helped shape Corning's culture and legacy. Her extraordinary 84 years of service, spanning both active and inactive years, were recognized during the ceremony when she was presented with a special edition service pin. And those who are from the Corning area and know people that have worked in the Corning area, after you retire, they still consider you part of in service to Corning. So you get these pins, you get these special recognition ceremonies. This is 84 years of service. Wendell Weeks said, as we celebrate Corning's 175th anniversary, we honor the generations of employees whose talent, dedication, and ingenuity have carried our company forward. Eileen's remarkable story reflects the strength of Corning's long blue line, the dedicated employees whose contributions have shaped our legacy and continue to shape our future. Then the anniversary celebration kicked off around 7 p.m., where they had live entertainment, family activities, food from local vendors, and a fireworks display over the Chemung River. Attendees traveled from across the region to take part in the celebration. If you went, I'd love to hear your stories of it, but let's look at just a couple of photos from that. There's the lighting of Little Joe, celebrating 175 years. We've got a fireworks display in front of headquarters, or behind headquarters, I should say. A really beautiful picture there. There's Senator Tom O'Mara, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, Assemblyman Chris Friend, with Wendell Weeks, and the proclamations from both the Assembly and the Senate. What a great picture of everyone there. And then there's that special moment of them laughing together, receiving that special 84-year pin. So congratulations to Eileen Holtzman. I thought that was a really nice picture. And then there is the receiving by Mayor Walker, friend of Frankly Speaking, the key to the city. And if you didn't realize, according to Mayor Pam Walker, and that, of course, is Wendell Week and Kim Frock. You may not realize this. I learned this. I think that was it. Yes. And I learned this when we had our big celebration of Dwayne Eddy with the unveiling of the historical marker, when Dwayne's wife, Deed, received the key to the city. The key to the city is indeed made out of glass. I thought that's a special note there. All right. I want to kick off the program with that, because we had talked about it during yesterday's program. Let's get into updates on the Iran war. We're going to talk a little bit here, because it's Friday. We have a couple catch-all categories that just catch everybody up on, from things that we may have missed or updates from the program throughout the week. But in Iran, explosions were heard across multiple parts of Iran yesterday after the U.S. military launched another wave of strikes targeting Iranian military capabilities, according to local media. An explosion was heard on the southern coast of Qeshm Island, Iran's state broadcaster reported, according to Reuters. Now, CENTCOM said that they had finished their 13th night of Iran's strikes, saying U.S. Central Command's forces successfully completed the 13th consecutive night of strikes against Iran on July 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The international waterway remains open for transit, meaning the Strait of Hormuz. Let me take a step back. They said they targeted, this is CENTCOM again, targeted Iranian military command centers, drone storage facilities, communications networks, coastal surveillance sites, and maritime capabilities to further diminish the threat Iran poses to civilian mariners and commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The international waterway remains open for transit despite recent attacks from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Commercial vessels continue to freely navigate the Strait of Hormuz with U.S. military support. Now, Trump had warned yesterday that he may order a massive attack on Iran bigger than ever before. I'm considering a massive attack bigger than ever before. I'm close to making a decision. We are all set for it, Trump told Axios. Trump's remarks came as the U.S. entered its second week of intensified military operation against Iran, following attacks on commercial shipping and continued regional escalation. It's amazing to me the mainstream media, and we've talked about this extensively, that they want a loss in Iran. I mean, you had that one New York Times report saying they wanted a loss because a win would be too politically beneficial for Trump. And if you go to certain outlets, like I do, because I do a lot of show prep in the morning, the mainstream media, you would think we had really no military capabilities, that we're losing this thing horribly, which the facts just don't bear that out. Iran rejected the latest ceasefire proposal as Trump considered, as I said, that massive attack. The terms of the rejected truce are unclear, but Iranian officials described it as the only offer on the table and a temporary deal that did not resolve the question of who would control the Strait of Hormuz. Now, there is that concern, and I mentioned it yesterday, that the missile accuracy of Iran is sparking that fear that some adversaries are helping Tehran target U.S. troops and CIA sites, adversaries such as Russia and China. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirmed yesterday that Moscow and Beijing are providing some level of support to Tehran, though he said the extent remains classified. Quote, the depth and extent of it ought to remain classified. But there are ways in which both of those countries are at different levels, enabling some of the things Iran is doing, yes. Those fears were heightened Wednesday when another Iranian attack reportedly slipped through U.S. defenses and slammed into a weapons depot near the same Jordanian air base where 3 American troops were killed days earlier. So very concerning that Russia, China could be involved. And we've talked about that larger picture in the past of that kind of axis of evil of Iran, Russia, and China. Now, when you're talking about these negotiations and the ceasefire being turned down by Iran, Secretary of State Marco Rubio refused to disclose what he discussed in a closed-door meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, telling reporters in Manila that diplomacy collapses when its details are aired on a microphone. He spoke to the press on the sidelines of his meeting, and this is more in reference to Russia and Ukraine, but you also have that connection there of Russia to potentially Iran. Rubio said, I mean, you think we settled the war in Ukraine in our 30-minute talk here in Asia? That's not the way it works. I'm not going to tell you what we talked about, because diplomacy doesn't work well when you run to the microphones afterwards. A top U.S. diplomat said Washington remains prepared to play a constructive role in ending what he called a senseless war, and that the message had been delivered in other meetings as well. A reporter then asked whether he had raised Russia's alleged sharing of targeting information with Iran. He said, well, who says that they are? The reporter, of course, not happy with that, said, are they not? Who says they are? Rubio said that, the reporter pointed to Pete Hegseth, who told the Senate Appropriations Committee this week that Moscow and Beijing are enabling some of the things Iran is doing. Rubio said that that was a different question than what the reporter originally asked. Reporting in the media, he asked? Oh, that it must be true. If it's in the media, it's a leaker. I'm not going to, let's imagine that was true. I certainly wouldn't discuss it in the press. The secretary held the same lines on other files and discussions, asked which governments had passed along Iranian requests for talks. Rubio said, I'd be betraying their confidence. You want me to give details on our plan? Okay, not today. No, I'm not going to do that. And it's smart, not playing this on the media. And the media, like I said, if you go to the mainstream media websites or you watch the certain mainstream media nightly news, they are only portraying this as losses, as Trump is not prepared for this, Rubio's not prepared for it, Hegseth. So why would they then turn and give the media that access? Because it's just not factually true. But I can see where, and they're doing this in the hype up to the midterm elections, they're doing this to discourage people. Because I could find, for instance, let's say Drudge Report. If you go there, if it's a story about Trump or about his administration, it's negative. If it's a story about Iran, it's negative. And I can see where kind of the low information voter goes to certain websites like that and would say, wait a minute, everything's bad. Everything's doom and gloom when the numbers just don't support that. And we had that great piece yesterday, and I hope I'm not misquoting. I think it was Liz Peek talking about the economic numbers that the president needs to tout. Something as simple as what the media is ignoring is the Trump accounts for children. When have you seen the coverage of that? Other than outlets like this, maybe some of the sites that you go to, such a positive for future generations and for our country. And the media, that was what, a one-off? I wouldn't even say it was a day's coverage. I would say the day that it was announced and actually was enacted, you saw very little coverage of it. Why? Because it's positive for this administration. We know this. We can belabor. I've got 2 or 3 just really glaring examples of that bias in the media. Not to kind of sidetrack this conversation on Iran, but there was one, and we had mentioned it, the Secret Service saying that the level of threats on this administration are unprecedented. Something like 10,000 investigations already this year alone. So then we saw the headline that a Secret Service agent was, now I don't know if you'd say let go, but at least sidelined from his detail with J.D. Vance because he had leaked. He had leaked information about the comings and goings of the vice president. And it was done as a hit piece. And what the concept was is he was misusing, the J.D. Vance was misusing the Secret Service or plans, or maybe misusing isn't the right word, but, having to go all these extra trips and putting Secret Service in difficult positions, I guess. So anyway, this guy leaks it, guy or girl, I don't know, leaks it. And I thought, well, that of course that person should be sidelined, and that of course that person should be fired. If they're putting the vice president in harm's way by releasing their detail of where he was going to be, the media spun it. And yes, this is coming from more to the far left, but I found it on Drudge Report. Vance boots Secret Service agent after his embarrassing diva demands leak. So this is how delusional and unhinged they become on the left. That they don't see this as a national security threat, that J.D. Vance's life could very much be in danger because a Secret Service agent who apparently does not like the Trump administration releases his travel plans. Of course he should be fired. But the media spins it that it was because it was embarrassing for Vance. This is how you have to look into the mind of the media, because it's terrifying, but you have to know, right, that you have to know how they operate. They take something that seems cut and dry and they spin it in a way that J.D. Vance was embarrassed, So he let that Secret Service agent unfairly let him go. J.D. Vance has suspended a Secret Service agent suspected of leaking his diva demands to the press, according to reports. Now, the original MS Now article, so if that Secret Service agent was running the MS Now, you tell me where they stood. Do you think they had the vice president or the president's best interest at heart? Of course not. But that Secret Service person said they were fed up with his erratic travel plans, which require agents to drop everything to accompany the vice president's family, as well as inappropriate use of taxpayer-funded protection. Can I just say, dropping everything at the drop of a hat, having to change your schedule for the vice president, is that not your job as a secret? You could be fed up. Everybody gets fed up with a job at some point. But when that is your job, what are you doing there? You didn't get drafted into the Secret Service. You accepted that job. I'm sure it's well paid. And yet you are fed up because you have to follow the vice president, which is, I would say, your job description to a T. Anyway, that's just a quick look into the media as a side note from Iran, because I have a couple other things on Iran. But again, imagine that. He would fire him because of an embarrassing story. All right, we got to take a break. I know I went on a tangent there and I ran long. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. I'm feeling good about our wave count already. 9 waves, 16 minutes after the hour. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Make this the summer Jeep event you've been waiting for. Save over $7,200 on all new 2026 Jeep Wrangler 2-door Sports.
Don't miss the Make This the Summer Jeep event. Drive home your new 2026 Jeep Wrangler today. Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way. Adventure starts here.
Hurry in! When they're gone, they're gone.
Meteorologist Brandon Weather's a very nice end of the week for us. Temperatures are right on track with average, and we get some sunshine, a high of 84, and we'll see 77 to 84 as a spread of temperatures across the area. Lows in the mid and upper 50s overnight with clear skies. Then for our Saturday, another day in the upper 70s to mid 80s with 85 locally. We will then have some thunderstorm potential.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Speaking of Iran, for a second time, the House has approved a resolution to end the war in Iran in a rebuke on Trump. These are the type of articles that's coming from PBS or NPR, one or the other. Again, the media's coverage. The House on Thursday approved a resolution to remove U.S. forces from hostilities with Iran in a vote that reflected growing frustration inside Congress over the war. The resolution passed the House by a vote of 214 to 208, and while it's not legally binding, the resolution represents a symbolic rebuke to President Trump. Shortly after the House vote, Senate Democrats tried to advance a war powers resolution of their own, but the measure failed 47 to 49. I'm not going to go through the comments, but 4 Republicans joined Democrats to approve the measure. Tom Barrett of Michigan, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Ohio's Warren Davidson, and, you guessed it, Thomas Massie of Kentucky. Republicans who oppose the resolution have defended the war as necessary, given Iran's past attack on Americans and U.S. interests in the region. Now, the one quote coming from the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Brian Mast of Florida, he held up a photo of U.S. service members killed in the war, saying, "To belittle this mission is to belittle and demean the very service these members gave their life for. The operation is bringing reckoning for the hundreds of times Iran has attacked and killed people of the United States of America." Now, Leon Panetta, who led the CIA during President Barack Obama's administration, said that this country, meaning our country, is in deep trouble. Well, history tells us that forever wars do not end well. And of course, he got the opportunity to preach this message on CNN. And I think that's the box we're in right now. Whether it was Vietnam, whether it was Iraq, whether it's Afghanistan, or whether it's Iran right now, the problem is that there really is no clear objective that the president is trying to put his arms around. So he continues military attacks, which intelligence makes clear is not going to move Iran. At the same time, the American people are paying a very heavy price as a result of oil prices going sky high and the cost of living increasing as much as it is. And so he's basically in a box right now trying to figure out if there's a way out. And frankly, I think right now the country is in deep trouble in terms of figuring out some kind of strategy that can end this war. It does not look well at this point. I don't want to go in through anymore, but just since we're having that conversation on the media, he was asked, this is the question, Leon Panetta, who worked for Barack Obama, a question that would, if the shoe was on the other foot, and he worked for the first Trump term administration. His question was, do you think Iran has the upper hand? That's what you call a softball, so he can hit all of his talking points. Now, Senator Todd Young, a Republican from Indiana, said that the number one goal of this conflict we can't lose sight of, and that is to secure the nuclear materials, remove them if possible, and then establish a verifiable enforcement regime for whatever political settlement might ultimately be agreed upon. It looks like we're a long way, or that we're a long way. This is worded strange. It looks like we're a long way away, and there are going to be elevated prices that flow through our economy on account of the heightened energy prices and lingering uncertainty, and that, of course, is something we're feeling at home. If we can get into our minds, if we could get into the minds of the IRGC leadership, which is really, by so many accounts, really in charge of the country, but also to the dear leader's mind, then perhaps we can get them back to the table and change their risk calculus as it relates to coming up with a negotiated settlement. But I think the real takeaway from that is, and I would agree, is the IRGC is in the actual leadership position. Okay, a couple last quick things on this. First, the beloved Queen's soldier that was killed in that Iranian attack on a U.S. base should have a street named after her, the borough president said Thursday, as her devastated mom sobbed, saying she died for her country. There's a plan to honor Sergeant Angel Sarah Rampersad, 28, of Ozone Park, killed Friday during the attack on that base in Jordan, for her bravery on the street outside her family home. She made the ultimate sacrifice, said borough president Donovan Richards. Angel was a hero, plain and simple. No matter what you think of this war, what is not up for debate is the bravery it takes to enlist like Angel did 7 years ago. She put her community before herself. Her legacy of selflessness and sacrifice will live on forever here in Ozone Park and across Queens, but not Queens, across the nation. Now, the New York Post believes that yesterday's threats that President Trump made about the massive attack could force Iran to the negotiating table. They suggest, when he says a massive attack bigger than anything we've ever done before, the New York Post says he should go ahead and do it. The Iranians plainly don't want a deal, at least not the ones literally calling the shots, who keep killing American servicemen and women across the region, and not the ones running international propaganda who are instead putting up billboards of faked Melania, Barron, and Ivanka corpses. Yeah, they clearly don't want a deal. Tehran's still tapping us along, sending out negotiators who can't actually deliver peace, while the men behind the scenes exploit our forbearance to push Iran's claims to own the Strait of Hormuz, and now, via the Houthis, another choke point on the Red Sea. Talking about a head for an eye isn't convincing Iran's true leaders that America means business. It's going to take that massive attack to genuinely get them to the table, and quite possibly days of continued attacks until both sides reach a genuine accord. This doesn't mean boots on the ground, though that threat must remain visibly on the table, but heavy and well-placed strikes. Devastation that the Revolutionary Guard chiefs see, bombs that they hear, explosions that hit them. They've made it unmistakable. They see U.S. restraint as a sign of weakness. The only way to show them we're serious is to go big. And I would tend to agree, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, I would tend to agree with that statement, that they just want to keep, as history shows us, just keep playing us so they can keep build up weapons. And when we take that time off, when we kind of show restraint, they see that as a sign of weakness. So your thoughts on that? We've got one other thing on essentially funding for this and the Pentagon in general, and then we've got a lot of other topics to get to. All right, stay with us. Already up to 13. I'm liking that. At 6:26. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Toyota is bringing you a summer to remember in downtown Corning. Shop fresh and local at the Farmers Market every Thursday. Enjoy live music in Centerway Square and bring the kids to story time with Miss Sue. Catch movie nights on the square under the stars and cruise into Bridge Street for family-friendly events all summer long. Visit GafferDistrict.com for the full schedule. Come celebrate summer with us in the heart of Corning.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers here. Let me know if I'm wrong. I believe the main objective of the war was to prevent Iran from ever developing a nuclear weapon, which is also one of the subjects of the negotiations. That Iran will never have a bomb has been clear from the start. So the fantasy press propaganda is conveying an outright lie. You're spot on. They've also made that a talking point. This, like Leon Panetta and others in the media are pushing it, that there's no clear goal. That has been a clear goal from the beginning. Now, yes, there are other things during the negotiations, but that has been the number one stated goal from the beginning. Now, I would love to see regime change. I hope that's a part of it. But the main goal that the media chooses to ignore has been no nuclear weapons for Iran. And I don't know how many times the president has to say it, or Rubio has to say it, or Hegseth has to say it. But that is the stated goal. I see some more comments coming in. Good morning, Frank. Hey, Mark. Good morning. I believe we should bomb them like we never have. Get it over with and done. And because they won't deal, it's like dealing with the devil. That's kind of what the New York Post is essentially saying. Hit them big. Because they love the kind of the pause in action. They see it as weakness. They obviously don't care about their own people. So it really is going to take a lot to hurt them. And I guess that's my kind of opinion is that's where we're at this point. Comment from a different viewer. And I'm not ignoring you. I'm going to save it. It's about the Obama Presidential Center. I'll save your comment here in just a moment because we are going to talk about that. Let me just wrap up this one last thing that I think is worth noting. The Post says, credit Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with embodying the lunacy that has Democrats united against funding the U.S. military. She claimed this week that the National Defense Authorization Act poses, quote, an existential threat to American sovereignty and democracy because it would merge parts of our military with the Israeli Defense Forces. We had talked about that yesterday, so this is more of an update. We had that great quote from Lee Zeldin, with that great quote from Mike Lawler. Insane. The bill's Section 219 simply okays military cooperation on cybersecurity, tech joint exercises, and so on. The Pentagon has similar accords with nations from Canada to India. But paranoid Israel bashing, and I'd say in most instances, Israel hating, now dominates the Democrat Party. So much so that House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries didn't dare whip Democratic votes against last week's proposed amendment to zero out U.S. aid to Israel, which more than half of House Democrats proceeded to support. And you recall that. Hakeem Jeffries, though he said he would support aid to Israel, he didn't whip up votes. He let the kind of anti-Semitic wing, like in the Democrat Socialist of America, that wing of the party, which there's that civil war we've been talking about. They're quickly becoming the leaders. They're quickly becoming the power. He let them have free reign, and however they wanted to vote. So half of House Democrats voted to completely zero out any aid to Israel. Now, more broadly, the party's uniting around opposing President Trump on everything, so much so that Senate Democrats will use the filibuster to block the defense bill, forcing Republicans to use the arcane reconciliation procedure to simply get the Pentagon through the next few months of the Iran war, saying, essentially, we don't want to pay our soldiers. We don't want, apparently, to win this thing. Thus, the House, after passing the NDAA, also moved a Republicans-only $95 billion spending resolution that begins the reconciliation process, a figure that may grow to cover some defense modernization needs. But that process won't finish until mid-September at the earliest, and is sure to feature a host of other proposed amendments designed to please Democrats' hard left base, with lots more speeches implying that Benjamin Netanyahu is using Jewish mind control powers to make Trump do his bidding. Yes, Trump should be doing a better job of explaining his war strategy. I don't necessarily agree that, but whatever. And selling it to the public. But it's simply disgraceful for Democrats to block defense funding, to block defense funding, while enemy fire is killing U.S. service members in the Middle East. Again, they're blocking both emergency funds for the Iran war and the larger defense bill for the year that they had agreed on with Republicans before their base's anti-war, anti-Israel fever reached a new peak. All of it with an eye on causing chaos in advance of November's elections. They don't care how the war with Iran turns out. It's all about their power in November. Even as their posturing in Washington feeds the hard left's drive to knock off more moderate Democrats in the primaries. We keep urging sane Democrats to fight back against the left wing. Yet Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer keep appeasing them and saving all their fire for Trump and the GOP. If they keep this up, AOC will soon be the heart of the party and maybe even its 2028 nominee. And that's the takeaway. She's playing to the extremes. I mean, you had that, what's his last name, Piker? He's some far left influencer. He, and we can talk about this later, but he believes AOC is the clear candidate. That's the only one that he likes for president 2028. But he's the one that are speaking to these DSA members. You may recall I mentioned his quote yesterday to basically telling Mamdani he's not fighting hard enough and used some choice language and told him to shut up because he's not fighting hard enough. So he likes AOC. And then I heard, we'll give you the full quote a little bit later on, but I do have to take a break, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Ted Cruz made a prediction, and this kind of blew me away this morning because for whatever reason it wasn't on my radar. We keep talking about AOC potentially primarying Chuck Schumer or Chuck Schumer stepping aside because he sees the writing on the wall that she could win and become next senator from the state of New York. We keep saying AOC. But then we keep hearing these rumblings that AOC is probably going to run for president. And if she runs for president, Chuck Schumer would support her wholeheartedly because, again, he would see his job as being safe. Put all that aside. What I didn't see coming, and this is Ted Cruz's prediction, that the next senator from the state of New York could very well be Zohran Mamdani. That is his prediction. So we will talk about that later on in the broadcast, but we have quite a few other quick updates, and I'm going to read that one comment from a viewer. Again, I wasn't ignoring you. I'm glad it was already on my radar to bring up, and we're going to bring it up when we return. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Get ready for the 185th Chemung County Fair. 5 days of family fun. August 4th through August 8th at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Rust and Fright Concert August 4th. Tractor Pull August 5th. Rodeo August 6th. Truck Pull August 7th. Demolition Derby August 8th. Join us for the 185th Chemung County Fair, where tradition meets excitement. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. A very nice end of the week for us. Temperatures are right on track with average, and we get some sunshine, a high of 84, and we'll see 77 to 84 as a spread of temperatures across the area. Lows in the mid and upper 50s overnight with clear skies. Then for our Saturday, another day in the upper 70s to mid 80s with 85 locally. We will then have some thunderstorm potential Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Comment from a viewer: given that AOC is a socialist communist, for her to refer to anything as being a threat to democracy is like a bird refusing to acknowledge that it eats worms. Sure, what a hypocritical joke. Yeah, I mean, that's the left when they get on talking points and everything is a threat to democracy. My goodness, it's so worn out, trite, cliche. It's all they have. The hatred for Trump is all they have. That's that whole piece about not funding the Pentagon was about. their agenda, they'll use terms like affordability, which is laughable. They'll use terms like threat to democracy, which is laughable as well. When you have a party that is actively supporting Democrat Socialists of America, socialists, communists, actively encouraging those people and pushing that agenda, and then telling us X, Y, and Z is going to be a threat to democracy, it's hard to take them seriously. But as we near November, obviously the talking points are going to be affordability and their hatred for Trump. Okay. Comment from, good morning, Steve. Steve writes in, I just watched the IQ Foundation for Clean Air for Schools commercial for Upteen Time. Whatever happened to the $2.3 billion during the Biden administration that was given to the school system, it went into the teachers union to pay for the clean air in the schools. Yeah, I don't know. That was like a lot of those bills that Biden did get passed, bipartisan infrastructure, all those, the Inflation Reduction, which was another laughable name. Just, again, when we talk about lexicon with Democrats, they know how to twist things, don't they? Something's a threat to democracy as they are pushing a socialist agenda. Anyway, we don't have to keep saying that. But a lot of that money just went nowhere. Think about with the infrastructure bill, how much was supposed to go to high-speed internet and things like that in rural communities. Let me know if you're there, because a lot of people still complain about that. And we're talking billions and billions of dollars. That's why inflation increased so much. All right, this is the comment from the viewer that I have just put off because I wanted to bring up the story now. A plumbing subcontractor who says he is owed nearly $4 million for work on the Barack Obama Presidential Center has suspended operations and laid off 25 union workers weeks after the Chicago campus's star-studded opening. Yes, you got it. 25 and this, we didn't predict it. We were ahead of the reporting on this because we had talked about, especially the minority-owned businesses that were suffering because they had not been paid yet by the, I guess, I don't know if it's the Barack Obama Foundation or the official Obama's Presidential Center Foundation. In this case, so there's a lot of groups complaining about that, saying they'd have to go out of business, that they're owed so much money. Well, one has succumbed to that. They were stiffed for nearly $4 million. They had to shut down operations, the subcontractor, and had to lay off 25 union members. Keep that in mind to the kind of pro-union, pro-Democrat members of the audience. Mike Owen, the owner of Chicago-based Adamson Plumbing Contractors, told Fox News Digital that the financial fallout forced the company to abandon about half a dozen other construction jobs and left it on the verge of collapse. Owen described the shutdown as a painful decision he believed was necessary to save the company from bankruptcy, saying, quote, laying off close to 30 people is something that no owner in our industry wants to do. It's a hard thing to do, especially when you know you can finish them and the company can still make money. It's a hard thing to do, especially when you know you can finish them and the company can still make money. But we were put in a pretty bad corner, meaning finish the projects must be. Adamson, which performed its work on the center under the name Marsh Adamson, has since filed a $1.72 million mechanics lien against the property, escalating the payment dispute into a legal fight. The company is one of several subcontractors report financial trouble after working on the center, which was promoted as a transformative economic opportunity for small and minority-owned businesses. A previous investigation by Fox identified several subcontractors, including black-owned firms, the project was specifically intended to support. They said that they were owed money or had absorbed losses ranging from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions. The largest dispute involves the Concrete Collective, which is seeking more than $40 million in additional payment. Before the center opened, Owen said the project had left the company with $3.9 million in losses tied to delays, rework, labor overruns, and changing project demands. He said he spent months negotiating with Lakeside Alliance, the project's construction manager, before going public after failing to reach a resolution. We heard that from others in this scenario. They didn't want to bring this up. They may have even been supportive of Obama or his foundation, but at some point you have to take it to the media. Owen said that his breaking point came around the time of the grand opening celebration. Owens said Adamson and Lakeside Alliance reached an agreement under which Adamson would provide 2 journeyman plumbers to perform last-minute housekeeping work on campus at premium nighttime rates. In return, Owens said, Adamson was supposed to receive part of its outstanding payment days before the center opened on June 19th. An email reviewed by Fox shows a Lakeside representative telling Owen that $100,000 would be released through Adamson's May payment application. Adamson completed the requested work, but the payment did not arrive on time. Owens said the company's breaking point and left him with no choice but to suspend operations on June 25th. We negotiated in good faith. Against my better judgment, I agreed to do the work. Not getting the large sum of money just kind of pulled the brakes on the train. It was just the final death blow to the company. Rather than try to stretch it out and go bankrupt, I just decided the responsible thing to do was to shut it down. We'll regroup and we'll see what we're at come September. Owens said the promised $100,000 payment and around $35,000 for change orders payments have since arrived, more than 2 weeks after he suspended operations and laid off 25 workers. Too little, too late. The damage is done. Owens said the money helped reduce the company's debt to one supplier, but did not reverse the shutdown. So there's more to this. It gets a little wonky and some other payments, but that's just one of many. And what was supposed to be a boom, which was supposed to be a positive for small businesses and minority-owned businesses, has been nothing but a headache, and in many instances causing the end of those businesses, end of those jobs. Interesting, he argued that Chicago's proud protest culture has been absent in this case. Why is that? And that the reaction would be markedly different if the project were associated with figures such as Elon Musk or Ken Griffin. They would be paying holy you-know-what. They would be picketing. They would be storming the castle. Owens said, then singled out Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, one of those people that has delusions of grandeur and believes he's going to be the next president, questioned why the pro-union governor had not addressed the layoff or payment disputes, saying, but he hasn't said anything publicly about the union companies at the presidential center getting stiffed, and it bothers me. Pritzker's office did not respond to a request for comment. All right, that's enough on that, but thank you for bringing that to our attention. I already had it in locked and loaded, ready to go. But you gave me an excuse to put it in a little early there, so I appreciate it. We're going to take a short break. Get ready with more comments, more waves, and more to discuss this morning. So we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
It's the home of activity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer that Obama only hired minority-owned businesses to build his fiasco-laden center sounds suspiciously like prejudice to me. What a great guy. He certainly embraces his party's DEI ideology. it was a heavy focus on minority businesses, but also there was small businesses there. But yeah, that was one of the talking points early on, and those businesses have now suffered because of lack of payment. Yesterday, Trump announced that they're ratcheting up tariffs on 60 countries that have failed to ban imports made from forced labor, as 10% global duties are set to expire today. Senior administration officials said that countries that have begun implementing a forced labor prohibition or law on their books will be hit with 10% duties, while those that haven't will receive an import tax of 12.5%, with the levies taking effect at 12:01 a.m. on July the 24th. So it took already this morning. The United States has had a forced labor import ban for nearly a century and rigorously enforces it. It's well past time for our trading partners to do the same. Today's action will begin to correct what is both a human rights abuse and distortive trade practice to improve the welfare of workers everywhere. Isn't it interesting the left is always quiet about the forced labor? You know, I don't want to name companies because I don't know specifically, but when we talk about it with Assemblyman Palmisano, when you're talking about some of these batteries and these EV mandates and how much of those rare earth minerals are being mined by children and what is polluting these other countries. But again, it's not about that country. Apparently, it's about us getting EV and climate change mandates. So, and it's so many products, you know. Now, this was announced yesterday. Before we take another break, good news here. The U.S. murder rate has hit its lowest level in 125 years as violence plummets. There was 8 major cities that they did not plummet, but the country saw the sharpest year-over-year decline in murders on record last year, with homicides dropping 20% from 2024 and likely reaching the lowest level since 1900, according to a new analysis of local crime rates released by the Council on Criminal Justice. The plunge in violence has only continued accelerating so far in 2026. Homicides fell an average of 18% during the first half of the year compared to the first 6 months of 2025 across 21 of the 30 major cities surveyed by the Washington, D.C. based nonprofit. Lincoln, Nebraska saw the steepest drop, recording 0 homicides during the first 6 months of 2026 after reporting murders during the same period last year, marking a 100% decline. It was followed by Rochester, New York, with a 76% drop, Little Rock, Arkansas, with a 61% decrease, and Arlington, Texas, with a 60% dip. Murders also fell, 41% in Washington, D.C., 18% in Los Angeles, and 13% in Atlanta. According to this, Big Apple, New York City, fell 22% over last year. 8 of the 30 cities surveyed saw homicides increase during the first half of 2026, including 4 that had double-digit hikes. Norfolk, Virginia saw the sharpest increase, with murders soaring 64% compared to the same period last year. San Francisco followed with a 55% jump, while Dallas saw a 30% increase and Salt Lake City recorded a 20% rise. Austin, Texas posted 9% year over year. All right, anyway. When we come back, we're not going to have a lot of time in it, so we'll probably bleed into the second hour. But did you see the Dodgers visiting the White House yesterday? We got a few things on that. Then we're going to talk about the Democrat Party. I got a couple media updates, a lot of New York updates. We definitely, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano released a couple press statements that we want to get to on this morning's edition. So we're going to take a last break. Get your last second comments in for hour number 1, and we'll be right back.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
One big day of smooth jazz awaits you at the Ferrario Elmira Jazz Festival. Join us at Thorne Street Park Saturday, August 15th for chart-topping jazz keyboardist Brian Simpson and soprano saxophonist Marion Meadows with local favorite Top Shelf. Celebrate with us. Tickets only $42. It's one big day. Buy tickets at ElmiraJazzFestival.com. Brian, Marion, and Top Shelf. One big day.
It's more than music.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, a very nice end to the week for us. Temperatures are right on track with average, and we get some sunshine, a high of 84, and we'll see 77 to 84 as a spread of temperatures across the area. Lows in the mid and upper 50s overnight with clear skies. Then for our Saturday, another day in the upper 70s to mid 80s with 85 locally. We will then have some thunderstorm potential Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, getting ready to wrap up hour number one. I see quite a few comments coming in. I will read those at the top of the hour. So I do appreciate that. Yes, the Dodgers visited the White House for one last 2025 World Series celebration. 9 months removed from their epic Game 7. That was an amazing series. Sports-wise, it's been kind of an amazing year, hasn't it? There's been a lot of talks about, baseball's always popular, but this took it to the next level, at least in recent years. After drama surrounding the organization about whether or not they would visit the White House this year, and of course, sadly, that's what this has become. There's more articles about whether or not someone is, or a team is going to visit or not, is really what the main focus of the media is. It's quite pathetic, and it's also pathetic the organizations and players that don't go. Now, I don't knock them if there's a legitimate reason, of course, but very often it's a political statement. Not in this instance. I'm thrilled to say welcome back to the White House, Trump said, and maybe we'll see you again next year, I hope. So began a late afternoon commemoration in which members of the team gathered with the president on a stage alongside both of their recent commissioner's trophies. For the better part of 20 minutes, Trump praised the club's accomplishments from last October, calling them a special team and last year's World Series amongst the most thrilling championships in the history of the sport. This is a very special event because it's the Dodgers and they're world champions. White House trips have become a common occurrence in recent years for the Dodgers, who visited with President Biden in 2021 following the 2020 World Series victory before returning last April in the wake of their 2024 title. For this year's trip, most holdovers from last year's roster were in attendance, with the exception of Mookie Betts, who decided to skip the event to spend time with his family. And I'm sorry, I don't watch enough baseball. I just don't know the name. And Edgardo Henriquez, as well as those currently on the injured list and not traveling with the team. Oh, that's too bad. You get injured and you can't go to the White House. Now retired pitcher Clayton Kershaw also flew in to join his old teammates and was asked by Trump at one point, if they need you now, you'd be out there, right? So Kershaw said, no, sir. He has become a special advisor in the Dodgers front office. Owner Mark Walter, team president Stan Kasten, and executive vice president Lon Rosen, who's also now president of the Walter-owned Lakers, were present as well. President of baseball operations Andrew Friedman and general manager Brandon Gomes were not, having stayed back from the team's road trip this week ahead of the MLB's upcoming trade deadline. Manager Dave Roberts said, I just want to say that we're very grateful to be here. We did something that hasn't been done in almost 30 years, going back-to-back as World Series champions, and we are going for a three-peat. The crowd featured Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whom Trump noted is a big Dodgers fan. Enough on that, but I do have another little thing. He did say that he had a particularly close rooting interest in the Dodgers to beat the Toronto Blue Jays, having made a little bet with the Prime Minister of Canada going into the matchup. I was not feeling so good for a little while, and that's when Roberts said neither were we. Alas, the Dodgers prevailed, mounting a comeback that Roberts said epitomizes the character of his club. All right, I'm just going to tell you one quick thing on this when we start the next hour, but yes, I'm running late. I just saw that. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. We're having a blast already. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. Stay with us.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Make this the summer Jeep event you've been waiting for. Save over $7,200 on all new 2026 Jeep Wrangler two-door sports.
Don't miss the Make This the Summer Jeep event. Drive home your new 2026 Jeep Wrangler today. Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way. Adventure starts here.
Hurry in! When they're gone, they're gone.
World Youth Clubs provides professional and technical assistance to all our affiliate clubs all around the world. We already have 44 countries that are behind us providing safe spaces for kids, but there are 160 other countries we'd like to reach out to. Yeah. Right, Rod? Exactly. We need you to help fund the World Youth Clubs and make their dream come true.
And we welcome you to our number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and, of course, as always, proudly from the amazing Hesselson's studio. We've got quite a few comments here from viewers. So let's get right to them. Mark writes in, you don't suppose homicide is down because Trump is deporting illegal immigrants. I bet that has a lot to do with it. That has not been reported or never would be reported, but I think it's just an emphasis by this administration on law and order and maybe, heaven forbid, supporting our police officers. Comment from Jack. Jack writes in, good morning, Frank, and I say good morning, Jack. The political left has made opposing President Trump its highest priority, often above consistency, fairness, and even the interests of the country. In my view, much of the mainstream media has become the tip of the left's spear and the shield that protects it. Bad news for the left is downplayed, explained away, or ignored. And I would add, just to stop for a second, Jack, ignored, I think, is one thing that Republicans overlook too often. It's about what they omit, what they don't report. So you're exactly right. While good news for President Trump is routinely attacked, distorted, or reframed as something negative, or again, not reported on, like we saw with the Trump savings accounts. This isn't objective journalism. It's political power madness. Public trust is out the window. Trump derangement syndrome has overshadowed common sense, weakened respect for political norms, and made defeating one man more important than applying fair principles. You're spot on, Jack, obviously. I would add, this is why the mainstream media has lost credibility. Something as simple as watching 4 years of them protecting and coddling Biden and ignoring his mental health decline. And then we see the laser-like focus on everything Trump does. Even though we see him at all these events, doing all these speeches and rallies and press conferences, et cetera, they try to tell us, oh, he's not healthy. They've lost all credibility, but at the end of the day, they don't care. You would think it's about profit. You would think it's about fair reporting. It's not. It's always been about pushing their bias, pushing their agenda. And very often it's the omissions that bother me the most, when they don't report on positive news on Republicans, or, like you say, spin it, which we saw earlier when I talked about that. Or they very often make up stories, make up anonymous. I'm going to talk about that. I'm glad you brought this up, Jack. I'm going to talk about another media story after I read this next comment. Comment from a different viewer. But that was great, Jack. Thank you. I appreciate it. Comment from a different viewer. I just realized the only cure for TDS is to stop watching mainstream media and watch more. Frankly speaking, I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Now, that's very kind of you to say. I do appreciate that. But just to go to Jack's point, I don't know if you saw this. It came across my radar this morning, and I had printed out. I think it got lost in the shuffle. And then I realized, wait a minute. I don't think this is exactly what they thought it was. So the Associated Press They did a post about transgender aid workers in Nepal turning to sex work after losing their jobs due to U.S. foreign aid cuts, sparked by a wave of controversial backlash, which critics argue the video made the case for defunding USAID rather than saving it. So the AP post said that in Nepal, where, quote, a conservative culture leaves openly transgender people with few legal job options, around 100 LGBTQ aid workers left jobless by U.S. funding cuts had turned to sex work to survive. An accompanying video focused on Ruby Lama, a former HIV outreach worker who said USAID-funded programs had provided free condoms, HIV prevention medication, and more before the cuts. Lama said in the video, when USAID funding was there, condoms were free, things were distributed for free. HIV treatments were also available without cost, but now it's all gone. So needless to say, when that post came out, people had such things like this to say. Representative Brandon Gill from Texas saying, our tax dollars no longer fund employment for transgender Nepalese sex workers. Thank you for reminding us why defunding USAID was long overdue. Matt Walsh said, wow, very grateful that my tax dollars are no longer funding a bunch of, we'll say, transgender in Asia. Is that the point you were trying to make, or did you expect us to be somehow sad about this? Yes, I expected this to be because they still haven't got over, remember, it's all about big government, more money. They still haven't got over the cuts. It is unbelievable. They'll twist themselves into one heck of a pretzel. Molly Hemingway argued AP most exposed misplaced priorities, particularly among the media, saying the outlet presented U.S. tax dollars flowing to Trans Nepalese Job Protection Program as though it was a good use of public money. Saying the AP announces that your hard-earned tax dollars were flowing to a Trans Nepalese Job Protection Program as if that was an even remotely good use of your money. AP is sick Democrat propaganda. Yeah, they had to go out of their way to make that story, to try to paint a negative. How dare Elon cut USAID funds to the Nepalese trans sex worker community? Quipped Jack Posbiek. So just another example. I mean, that's kind of a weird way to start off hour number 2, but it goes back to the J.D. Vance story. They will twist anything to be a negative on Trump, to be the most harmful. Again, that was your tax dollars going to that. But back to the World Series champions, the Dodgers visiting the White House. John Fleischman, I don't want to belabor this point because there's too much conversation about will players attend the White House? Will the team attend the White House? It gets very, very tedious. But John Fleischman says the Los Angeles Dodgers went to the White House to be honored by President Trump. Good. It was good for the Dodgers. It was good for Major League Baseball. And at a time when Americans seem increasingly determined to sort themselves into opposing political camps, it was good for the country. For the first time, the long-standing tradition played out in the newly revamped Rose Garden. Trump shook hands with the players, giving a special call out to Clayton Kershaw. Trump singled out a play where Smith's foot came off of home plate for a split second. Instead of bluffing that he still had contact, he pulled it back and touched the plate before it would have cost the Dodgers to play. The Dodgers, in turn, presented Trump with his own World Series championship ring, wow, and a Dodgers jersey bearing number 47. Trump clearly did his homework. He spent a good part of his remarks walking through the Dodgers postseason, praising players and recounting some of its biggest moments. And we know that Trump is a big sports fan. So I don't know how much homework it was or if it's just recalling what happened while he was watching. This is a special moment, I think, especially because it's the Dodgers, Trump said. That the team has unbelievable talent and leaders before concluding a job well done. And then they go through some more of the quotes. I know that Trump joked about with the new Rose Garden. What did he say? That women used to go down like a ton of bricks or something like that when their heels hit the old Rose Garden. There wasn't much politics to any of this. Trump talked about baseball. Roberts talked about his players and winning. That's exactly what it should have been. We just got another reminder during the World Cup of what sports can do. Millions of Americans who disagree about nearly everything found something they could enjoy together. Republicans and Democrats don't have separate sections at Dodger Stadium. Nobody asked the guy sitting next to him how he voted before celebrating a home run. For a few hours, politics can just go away. And I would say you almost, this goes back to kind of the Colin Kaepernick and when the NFL started dabbling in politics and it just started to run amok. It is nice when you can put that aside. And I think this piece is right, that the World Cup really exposed that sports can take that all away. By the way, that was a 4-member group of walkers. Each one was a wave. We're up to what, 21? Did I count them all there? I like when the groups walk by. Up to 21 waves. Anyway, but sports is supposed to be a distraction. That's why the lectures during whatever sport you watch, because it's all of them almost at this point, when you get the lectures or even the politicized ads, remember that when that was a big deal? It took a lot of people away from various sports that just said, well, it's no longer the distraction it used to be. But this is why the Dodgers were right to accept the invitation. After winning the 2020 World Series, the Dodgers went to President Joe Biden's White House. After winning in 2024, they went to President Trump's. Yesterday, after winning it all again in 2025, they returned. Different presidents, same tradition. Yet activists pressured the Dodgers to decline this invitation, arguing that visiting Trump, particularly amid the bitter fight over immigration enforcement in Los Angeles, amounted to taking his side. To normalize, that's the term that was used, normalize. They have it backwards. Going to the White House wasn't a political statement. Boycotting it would have been. A championship team accepting recognition from the president isn't endorsing him or his policies. It is participating in an American civic tradition. That's why there is no contradiction between what I wrote about the Dodgers last month and what I'm writing today. I criticized the Dodgers then for allowing themselves to be pulled into the political fight over immigration enforcement. My argument was simple. Dodgers fans didn't buy a ticket for politics. The same principle applies here. Accepting recognition from the president after winning the World Series isn't something else entirely. The White House doesn't belong to one political party, and the president doesn't represent only the Americans who voted for him. Dodgers players and fans span every political and cultural divide in Southern California, but they all bleed Dodgers blue. All right. I thought that was just anyway. At the conclusion of the ceremony, Trump invited the Dodgers into the Oval Office where he said he would present them with presidential coins. But Roberts made clear that the team isn't satisfied with 2 championships. We are going for a 3-peat. If they pull that off, here's hoping President Trump will be welcoming the Dodgers back to the White House again next year. I just thought that was nice, just a little bit different, as so much is talked about with sports and the politicalization of sports, and I understand. All right, we've got to take a short break. I got a great update's not the right word. When we've been talking about the New Jersey scandal with 6,600 non-citizens registered to vote, it's devastating optics for Democrats. That's why they're trying to downplay it, or back to Jack's point, ignore that story. What was it, a 1-hour story? And it was presented in a way, and the governor, Cheryl, she knows how to do it in the sense that it gave the mainstream media, who had to report on it because of the scandal level of it, but gave them an opportunity to present her side, which was just bashing Trump and blaming the past administration. Bashing Trump was the main focus. So it was to downplay. This is nothing about the SAVE Act, but right? So the media is great at that, and that's exactly what they did. Now they can ignore it. It's over. It's just like the fraud in Minnesota. They had to report on it until they had a different story in Minnesota when the ICE agents, when the whole incident where the woman died, that was the main focus of Minnesota, no longer on the fraud. The fraud has been ignored. They just need any little story to get away from what is a major story, any little story. I mean, that's what they did with the Jersey. Now, it was a big story, don't get me wrong, what happened in Minnesota with ICE agents, but that should not have just deleted the fraud accusations, letting Tim Walz essentially walk to not report on it. But we're going to tell you about New Jersey. I wanted to remind you because it is coming up close to the date. It's hard to believe that July is nearing its end. Here it is on the 24th. Don't forget, it's the Give a Little Change a Lot campaign for the Salvation Army. if you are able to. Now, this is completely different than our telethon. You know, we always try to support the Salvation Army of Corning. And when it says Corning, I just want you to know that's all of Steuben County. Like it says there, help your neighbors in need in Steuben County. It should have never been just called Steuben or Salvation Army of Corning. It should have been all of Steuben County. But that's a side note. Full disclaimer, I am the president of the board, the advisory board. But having said that, we have an amazing viewer who donates and matches funds at Christmas time. This is a completely different campaign from that. This is not, I just want to clarify that. We're going to move forward and we'll tell you all about when the telethon comes at Christmas time. But this is a different group. So this is basically a different $1,000. So if we hit that $1,000, and that's the max, if we get up to $1,000, it will be matched $1,000. So if you give $5, it's like giving 10. If you give $20, like 40. I don't need to do the math for you. But please, if you can, because we think of the Salvation Army at Christmas time, but trust me, I see the numbers every month. It's not just Christmas time. The Salvation Army is working miracles with what they have day in and day out. It is so impressive. So if you're not a QR code kind of person, let me know. You see the number on the bottom of the screen. You can do it that way, or I can send you the link directly to that because, again, this is all for such an amazing cause, and they do so much throughout the year. So thank you to the Salvation Army of Corning, and thank you to everyone who has donated. Let me take that short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Toyota is bringing you a summer to remember in downtown Corning. Shop fresh and local at the Farmers Market every Thursday. Enjoy live music in Centerway Square and bring the kids to story time with Miss Sue. Catch movie nights on the square under the stars and cruise into Bridge Street for family-friendly events all summer long. Visit GafferDistrict.com for the full schedule. Come celebrate summer with us in the heart of Corning.
Maybe it was a family vacation or a school field trip. But there you were, standing in awe at a national park. We are the National Park Foundation, and together with you, we're creating a future where every person, every generation, gets their chance at an unforgettable moment. Today, tomorrow, forever. Learn more at nationalparks.org/foundation.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, a very nice end of the week for us. Temperatures are right on track with average, and we get some sunshine, a high of 84, and we'll see 77 to 84 as a spread of temperatures across the area. Lows in the mid and upper 50s overnight with clear skies. Then for our Saturday, another day in the upper 70s to mid 80s with 85 locally. We will then have some thunderstorm potential.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I almost forgot, and I'm really sorry I almost forgot, but I wanted to let you know that this Saturday and Sunday at 1 o'clock, I will be the guest of Hornell Mayor John Buckley on his amazing radio show, The Pulse, on WLEA. So to all our Hornell viewers, make sure you tune in again Saturday at 1 or Sunday at 1 or both times. We're going to have a great discussion like we always do. It's an honor to be on The Pulse with Mayor John Buckley. If you miss it, they do post it online after the fact. And I can get you that information if you're interested. But I know we're going to have a blast. We always do. So I wanted to pass that along. And we had so many comments last time. Last time I filled in a couple of weeks ago. Time flies, but I had guest host, my guest was Joe Semplinsky as I guest hosted, and before that, I was on with Mayor Buckley again. I have a blast with every time, so I'm so glad he asked me to do it again. So tune in Saturday or Sunday at 1 on WLEA, The Pulse. Okay, let's go to some viewer comments, and we got quite a few A few of them here. Ken writes in, Frank, I can't wait until we see the 2028 Democrat Dream Team contestants for Socialist Dictator of America. I like that. AOC, Kamala, Lemon, yes, Don Lemon says he's serious about it. Buttigieg, Hunter, yes, Hunter Biden. Who was it who said they wanted to see Hunter Biden run? Was it Joe Rogan or somebody like that? None of them can win, but it'll be fun to watch them trying to damage each other and twisting themselves into pretzels to distance themselves from their past statements and policy positions. My wife says, bring in the clowns. I like that, bring in the clowns. Well, what's going to be interesting about that, they're going to have to kind of out-left themselves. And you say, how can they do that? Well, because it's the primary. So they have to get the core Democrat base, which right now seems to be, at least if you look at the media's coverage, seems to be more far left, kind of that Democrat Socialists of America. That's why we keep talking about that civil war, because you have the moderates, and they're not moderates, but compared to the DSA, maybe they're moderates. But they're fighting against DSA. DSA is fighting amongst itself. It is beautiful. But you're going to have AOC, Kamala, especially Kamala. AOC, you could say she already has her bona fides of being far left. Kamala will have to go a little bit, not that she wasn't far left, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying socialist. Even that. Democrat Socialists of America policies, the anti-Semitism, things like that. Lemon, he can probably go whatever, he could probably do that without much problem going far left to that, because everybody knew he was anyway. Buttigieg should be interesting, and then Hunter Biden, that'll just be a blast. But let's say whoever wins that, let's say out of that group, and you've got other names in there, J.B. Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, others. So they're going to have to go far left. Then you get to the general election, whoever they pick. And that's when it gets interesting, because that's when they're going to have to, after pushing the DSA policies, they're going to have to try to be, you would think they're conservatives when it's all said and done. They're going to have to be, they're going to have to sell themselves as moderate. That is always very interesting to me, because a Democrat knows they can't win unless they lie to the voters and present themselves as almost a Republican. All right, kind of got on a tangent there. Comment from a different viewer. Regarding the New Jersey governor not accepting responsibility, it's only one of many examples of the finger-pointing denials that run rampant in the Socialist Party. I would agree with that. Thank you. Comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. I'm betting that every blue state, good morning, by the way, I'm betting every blue state did the New Jersey-style voter registration intentionally. They all do the same things, proving a conspiracy to defraud our elections. Well, I'm glad you mentioned New Jersey. I received this yesterday from the Assembly Minority Conference in Albany. So this is a state release from the Republicans. Assemblyman Matt Slater and Assemblyman and friend of frankly speaking, Phil Palmisano, were joined by members of the Assembly Republican Conference to call for an immediate public oversight hearing to assess the security, integrity, and fiscal oversight of the state's voter registration system. And I'm so glad, and I can't wait to talk to Phil Palmisano about this next time he's on the program. So this is kind of a Friday with Phil update. The request follows a recent disclosure by the state of New Jersey that approximately 6,600 non-citizens were erroneously registered to vote. New Jersey Mickey Sherrill blamed the issue on a software error in the state's motor vehicle voter registration process. And remember, that group, that software company, said that's not the case. That's ignoring the fact of what they were offering as a product. Theirs was just record. They can't register anybody to vote. So that was another part to that viewer's point of the blame game. So it's a past administration, or it's a software company, or it's Trump. Assemblyman Slater and Palmisano, the ranking minority members on the Assembly Election Law and Ways and Means Committees, respectively, noted in their letter that while there is no evidence New York has experienced a similar failure, it's incumbent on lawmakers to ensure our voter registration system is protected. Minority Leader Ed Raw said New Jersey has a serious problem on its hands, and it's incumbent upon us to make sure we don't run into a similar issue in New York. It's entirely reasonable to believe that since non-eligible voters appeared on the rolls in New Jersey, it could happen in other states. Holding an oversight hearing is a proactive step, a responsible step to assess New York's own system. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano said safeguarding our elections is of the utmost importance. What happened in New Jersey is concerning and must never happen in New York. Non-citizens should never be able to vote in elections. That is why taking the step to have an oversight hearing is so important. New Yorkers deserve to know the status of the integrity of elections, and holding these hearings is a crucial part of that. When election systems fail, taxpayers are ultimately left to bear the costs of investigations, administrative corrections, and restoring public confidence. Ensuring our election laws are properly enforced protects both the integrity of the ballot box and the interest of New York taxpayers. So we thank Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for passing along that information. New York's Department of Motor Vehicles maintains active contracts with an implicated vendor, IDEMIA. The same, again, they're saying it's not their fault, but that's the same. New York has the same group that New Jersey did. According to Open Book New York, the vendor holds 44 contracts with state agencies totaling approximately $579.5 million. In response to Governor Sherrill's statement blaming the registration mishap on a software flaw, IDEMIA responded by saying that any voter registration information it compiles must be reviewed by New Jersey's Division of Elections before being utilized. So there was a check in there where, did New Jersey, to that viewer's comment, did they want this to happen? Was this a part of the plan? Did Governor Sherrill get ahead of this, hoping that it wouldn't be as big of a scandal as it is because of the SAVE Act? Remember, the SAVE Act, they hate it, but this was the worst possible optics for the Democrats at this point. Now, a joint hearing would provide the opportunity to hear from multiple entities, including the State Board of Elections, Department of Motor Vehicles, Office of Information Technology, vendors with direct interaction with voter registration information, and independent experts. Topics would include existing safeguards against erroneous voter registration, audits to detect potential system failures, citizenship data collection, verification and transmission processes, vendors' role and responsibilities in comparison to New Jersey system, internal controls across voter registration agencies, corrective actions and planned improvements, and procurement, contract, oversight, performance, and fiscal impact. So thank you again to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. All right, we got to take a short break. Keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Get 185th Chemung County Fair. 5 days of family fun. August 4th through August 8th at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Rust and Fright Concert August 4th. Tractor Pull August 5th. Rodeo August 6th. Truck Pull August 7th. Demolition Derby August 8th. Join us for the 185th Chemung County Fair, where tradition meets excitement. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Comment from a viewer: we need to get hardworking people back in our government. Vote Republican, go MAGA. And then they amended it. We need to get hardworking, honest people back in our government. Fair point, good point. Thank you very much. All right. Everyone, I didn't get a chance to read that. I'll get back to the other comments that came in right as we return from break, and I will read those in the next segment. So, quickly, they're saying that the rift between John Thune and Trump has intensified, and this is on the Saved Act, as we Saved Act, tongue-tied there this morning, that we just mentioned with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. The long simmering tensions between Trump and Senate Republicans over a stalled voting restriction bill. Oh, that's how the media, this is the New York Times. So now it's called, back to the point we've been making all morning, and Jack had mentioned it, kind of the way the mainstream media can spin things. They call the SAVE Act. They don't call it voter ID, that what they call it. This is a direct quote from the New York Times. A voting restriction bill. Now, the president's spokesperson, Carolyn Leavitt, said that Mr. Trump's patience is running out with Senator John Thune. Thune, who has faced criticism from Trump and his far-right allies for months. Again, this is to pretend, I guess, to present the fact that the SAVE Act isn't overwhelmingly supported by the American people, that voter ID is somewhere in the 80% support range by the American voter. But think of that, boy, that is political media bias 101, voting restriction bill. But I think there's a bigger picture, because put aside the SAVE Act. What this problem is with Thune not doing this is creating a powder keg for November, where you have Democrats that are fired up because they don't like Trump, so they're going to get out and vote. Republicans who would be fired up saying, wait a minute, didn't we give you the House, the Senate, and the White House, and you couldn't get, well, very little done. Yes, the big, beautiful bill was nice, but really some of the major policy priorities that the president had outlined, you can't get that done. What is the point? And that's apathy. What is that point to go out and vote? So John Thune has essentially created that powder keg. That's the problem. Thune said maybe she or somebody else ought to get on the phone and get the votes. Saying to Carolyn Leavitt, that's kind of a cheap shot. Again, what is whose problem here? Okay, Trump's patience is running out. So his best response is maybe she or somebody else ought to get on the phone and get the votes. It's one thing if you go after Trump. It's not. Why go after Carolyn Leavitt? It's 50 around here, referring to the minimum number of votes Republicans need to pass legislation. And so instead of pointing the finger at Republicans, they might think about going after the people who are stopping it on the floor, which is the Democrats. And if there are Republicans that they think are gettable, get on the phone. Let's get them to say, yes, isn't it 60? Isn't that what the whole problem is? And yes, of course you can put the blame on Democrats for not supporting the SAVE Act. They're not going to support it because it's Trump's bill. So he can try to do that, but that's not going to, that messaging isn't going to stick, because at the end of the day, you need the Republican support, and Thune's got to do his job. With the midterm elections approaching, Republicans have been eager to present a united front. Instead, the president's intense focus on the bill has divided his party, prompting repeated squabbling, and has threatened the GOP's ability to pass legislation despite its majorities in both chambers of Congress. Oh, that's interesting. So now the blame is put on Trump for this. I see. Good reporting from New York Times. Quote, I don't know who it was that sold the president on this idea that this was attainable, said Senator John Cornyn. I wonder why they'd make sure to go and interview John Cornyn at the New York Times. I mean, there are a lot of Republican senators out there. We have the majority. I wonder why they ran to Senator John Cornyn. Could it be because the Texas Republican lost his primary to a Trump-backed challenger? Is that maybe why the New York Times sought him out, thinking that his quote may fit their narrative a lot better than a Ted Cruz? Mike Lee even? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, off the top of my head, people real quickly. But no, John Cornyn, the first to be quoted. Cornyn continued, but it's creating a circular firing squad for Republicans. And here we are, 103 days before the midterm elections, and this is not a great place for us. Well, you don't really have to worry when you say us. You're not worried about November. Don't worry about that. We don't have the votes, and so there's nothing that Senator Thune can do to change that, said Cornyn. Do we have any Republicans? Well, Thune was quoted. Cornyn, yeah, not seeing anybody else. Now, Tom, it's the same cast of characters. Boy, the political term, it's not, I'm just not name calling, is the useful idiot, that these people are used because they know, as Republicans, they're going to get a lot of it, quote unquote Republicans, they're going to get a lot of attention from the mainstream media because they're going to badmouth Trump, they're going to question Trump, they're going to question the agenda, they're going to go after their fellow Republicans. So that's why we hear the same cast and crew, and that's why they'll say bipartisan support for something against Trump. And it's the same old names, right? On the House, it's Thomas Massey. Thom Tillis, who is retiring, opted not to run for re-election. I wonder why that could be. He's repeatedly called efforts to pass the SAVE Act a waste of time. He reiterated his support for John Thune, saying, quote, anybody in the White House who thinks he's not a good leader isn't qualified for their job. After Trump went after the Senate, Mr. Thune at the rally this week, his team amplified the remarks. Carolyn Leavitt was asked at a briefing whether the president had lost patience, saying his patience is running out. He wants to see as much of the Save America Act passed as possible by the August recess. Thune was left to play down the rift. He suggested he had not been offended. I don't read a lot into it. I think it was a question she got, and she was responding to it. It's the nature of the beast around here. Anyway, so responding to that, I think at this point, there's probably no chance of the SAVE Act passing. But having said that, it's not a good look for John Thune, who, because put the SAVE Act aside, other major pieces of legislation so that the Republicans can run on that for the midterm to prove to their fellow Republicans that, yes, we can accomplish things when you give us the power. But right now, they don't really have that reputation, do they? They don't really have the reputation of respecting the power that they were given. We got to take a short break, but I'm going to leave on this note and get your thoughts. I know I mentioned it earlier, but Ted Cruz has predicted Mamdani will be the next Democrat senator from New York. Your thoughts on that? We'll give you the full quote. A couple things here about Democrats. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm a salon owner and biker.
I am a fundraiser for a local not-for-profit.
I'm in the hospitality business.
Work construction.
I'm a CAT scan tech at a local hospital.
I work at a nuclear disposal site. I'm a graphic designer.
I'm a machinist by trade, and I also own a motorcycle shop.
Folks that ride should know, at William Attar, we understand you. And if you're ever injured on a motorcycle, we're ready to help. Call 444-4444.
Toyota is bringing you a summer to remember in downtown Corning. Shop fresh and local at the Farmers Market every Thursday. Enjoy live music in Centerway Square and bring the kids to story time with Miss Sue. Catch movie nights on the square under the stars and cruise into Bridge Street for family-friendly events all summer long. Visit GafferDistrict.com for the full schedule. Come celebrate summer with us in the heart of Corning.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, a very nice end to the week for us. Temperatures are right on track with average, and we get some sunshine, a high of 84, and we'll see 77 to 84 as a spread of temperatures across the area. Lows in the mid and upper 50s overnight with clear skies. Then for our Saturday, another day in the upper 70s to mid 80s with 85 locally. We will then have some thunderstorm potential.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Busy, productive day this morning on Market Street. A lot of people out. Let's go to some viewer comments. Everyone's saying 400 illegal votes cast wouldn't change elections, is overlooking local elections. You're spot on. If all or most were in one district, it most certainly changed election results. If you fill lower seats, it changes higher office. It also allows those illegally elected to move up the political ladder. You're exactly right. First of all, and I know we've had this conversation a million times, local elections are so important to your day-to-day life. So to downplay that, because you're right. Look at the race that we had. I can't remember what district now in Chemung County. I think was it the 6th district? It was decided by, 1, 2, 3, 4 votes. Originally, it was tied on election night. And when the official results came in, I think it was a 2-3 vote difference. So if you have a scenario like that in New Jersey at a local election, yeah, it does swing the leg. And let's not even take one that's 2 or 3 votes. Let's take one that's 10 votes, 50 votes. That's not unheard of. If that swings it, it's about election integrity. And that's why I think Scott Jennings from CNN had it perfectly, said it perfectly on Wednesday. When he said, what is, to that person that was defending New Jersey and saying, well, it's just a blip on the rate, just a small percentage. He said, well, what is your tolerance? You keep saying it's not overwhelming and wants to know the definition from Republicans of overwhelming. What is your tolerance for illegal voting? What is your tolerance for fraud in voting? What is your tolerance for non-citizens registered to vote? I think tolerance is a perfect word for it because it's also normally their word. Comment from Ken. Let me guess on what they will find when reviewing the New York voter registration. A computer glitch unfortunately deleted a small number of records associated with illegal immigrants over the last 10 years of voter registration data, just after the paper copies were shredded. Probably right, Ken. Not that far off from satire, is it? Mark writes in, personally, I don't care for John Thune. I don't think he has the best interest for the Republican Party and for Americans. And in Trump's eyes, you have to be a go-getter, and Thune is not. I would agree. He's kind of the establishment, right? And I understand how the system works. I understand that they need 60. Now, Trump's argument has always been get rid of the filibuster because the Democrats are going to do that if they get power. I mean, they're talking about stacking the Supreme Court. They're talking about radical ideas. You think they're going to hold firm? Because even the ones that in the past would have held firm can't any longer because they see what happens when they get far left challengers to an incumbent. If the Democrat Socialists of America say jump, they're going to have to say how high. And if they say they want the end of the filibuster so they can get through anything that they want, the even, quote, moderate Democrats are going to make that move. They're going to vote for it. So I think if you're a betting person, and you can find it on one of these markets everybody keeps talking about that I have no idea how to enter. Sounds lucrative. I think the filibuster, if the Democrats take control, gone as quickly as you can imagine. No question asked. Comment from a different viewer. Where is Hoover when you need him? Local elections gone bad. Just look at Ithaca, let alone New York City. Well, I'm glad you mentioned New York City. And that is a local election. Ted Cruz expressed his doubts about the future of Chuck Schumer. And we all have. I mean, if AOC challenges him, AOC wins. There's no doubt. And he knows that. That's why he's rooting for an AOC presidency. Cruz told Sean Hannity that he believes Schumer feels threatened by AOC, but believed she would not seek the U.S. Senate, saying, quote, Chuck Schumer, I believe, could never again win a Democrat primary in New York. I think he will not even run for re-election. I've joked that Schumer will be the inaugural member of the AOC for President campaign because he's terrified AOC will primary him. And they've had reports from the left saying as much, that he will support her wholeheartedly for president if she doesn't challenge him. Cruz said in New Hampshire, she's the #1 Democrat, meaning AOC, candidate in the country in New Hampshire. That's today's poll. I think she'll run for president. I don't think she will run for Senate, but I'm going to make a prediction for you, Sean. My prediction is Comrade Mamdani will be the next Democrat senator from New York. That Mamdani will replace Schumer. I think Mamdani is the single most powerful Democrat in the country. And I got to say, by the way, there are some Republicans that are celebrating. This is great. Our opponents are crazy. That's going to help us. I want to say for the record, I'm not celebrating. I think this is bad for the country. I think this is unhealthy. I want to see two normal parties that are not filled with crazy people who can actually do something reasonable and who actually love the country. Okay? If a Democrat likes some higher taxes and higher regulations, I don't like that. But could we start with the premise that you love America? And the problem is these communist radicals, they not only don't love America, they hate America. If you're a small business owner, they hate you. If you're a Christian, they hate you. If you're a Jew, they hate you. That is dangerous, and I don't like it. Look, in history, we've always had a pendulum from one party to the other. Unfortunately, there's going to come a time when the Democrats are back in power, and I think it's really dangerous if the Democrat who gets back in power, and I hope that's not for a very long time, it's dangerous if that Democrat is an open communist who aspires to be a Mao or Stalin or Fidel Castro. These are the people driving today's Democrat Party, and he's not exaggerating. That is, they celebrate. We had that candidate, people that attended that forum where they were praising Mao, Stalin, Castro. But your thoughts on his prediction? I think Ted Cruz could be right about this. AOC's definitely, her ego has grown, right? And she's seeing all this great coverage and people wanting her to run. Hassan Piker, this far-left influencer who apparently has got a lot of attention, choosing AOC as his preferred candidate. I think she'll go for a White House run. And the polls show she's number one. So she'll go for a White House run, and that puts Zohran Mamdani in that Senate seat because Chuck Schumer is not going to win a primary if he gets primaried. He is very much unliked by the Democrat Party. Why? Because he, in their mind, didn't fight Trump hard enough, used the old ways of fighting, and, of course, ended that one government shutdown. So we'll read more of your comments. We got more to say on this when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
One big day of smooth jazz awaits you at the Ferrario Elmira Jazz Festival. Join us at Thorne Street Park Saturday, August 15th for chart-topping jazz keyboardist Brian Simpson and soprano saxophonist Marion Meadows with local favorite Top Shelf. Celebrate with us. Tickets only $42. It's one big day. Buy tickets at ElmiraJazzFestival.com. Brian, Marion, and Top Shelf. One big day.
It's more than music!
My relationship with my dad, I've had many male figures in my life, but there's only been one that has taught me that it's okay to be silly, it's okay to feel small, it's okay to admit you need help. And with anything, I can always go to my dad.
Learn about adopting a teen at Adopt.U.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So as I mentioned, far left streamer, far left, I would say influencer. He's the one that told Zohran Mamdani to shut up, that he's not fighting hard enough for the socialist cause. Hassan Piker selected AOC over a slate of prominent Democrats as his preferred 2028 presidential candidate, arguing that she could excite the Democrat Party's base and bring infrequent voters into a winning coalition. He was asked asked to choose between AOC and Representative Ro Khanna. And Ro Khanna embarrassed himself. It was either earlier this week or last week where he tried to stage that, what's the word I'm looking for? Not imprisonment, that's a strong word, but that confrontation with Israeli Defense Forces, showing how hard he's a millionaire, at the very least, a very rich man. He's trying to set himself up for a presidential run as well, which is laughable. But he's going to that far left anti-Semitic part of the base, and so which is becoming larger and larger by the day. Piker said, AOC it's not even a question. He made the choice at the end of a rapid-fire exercise that began with Gavin Newsom and former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel. The list later included former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, John Ossoff, J.B. Pritzker, Chris Van Hollen, and Ro Khanna. My goodness. That list, that's a heck of a list. I did not know Chris Van Hollen was thinking about it, I don't think. The rest we were familiar with. Piker said Ocasio-Cortez stood apart from the others. AOC is, out of all the people that you mentioned, AOC is the only one that I would like. There are hurdles. These are hurdles, yes, but there are hurdles that one can clear, meaning, and I still think this is overhyped by the left, but acknowledging that her race and gender could present electoral obstacles. That's just to paint the country as sexist and racist. That's just not the case. So I'm not really sure why they keep making that argument. That's the left. As long as you have moral conviction, as long as you can excite the base, as long as you can actually create a unique coalition and active low propensity voters, which I think AOC has the capacity to do, it would be a fantastic left candidate. It would be a fantastic left candidate, even better than Bernie in many ways. Piker also offered criticism of AOC's political presentation. He said she had been effective on social media and willing to make progressive positions in Congress, but argued she could appear too concerned with optics. The way she carries herself, I think, is a little bit too optics-driven, too liberal and too optics-driven. I think she doesn't harness the populist rage in the way that she communicates. I would argue, well, she's got to bone up on her foreign policy. Remember that speech that she gave, or that sit-down interview. I would also say, and I mean, take this if you want, if you're a Democrat. I'm offering you this a bit of advice. Don't do the fake accents when you go around campaigning. When she did that recently, that does not play. It didn't work for Hillary. It didn't work for Kamala. Biden had a kind of, that was more of a racist thing, but don't do it. All right, we better take our last break. Get your last second comments in as we head into the weekend. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, a very nice end to the week for us. Temperatures are right on track with average, and we get some sunshine, a high of 84, and we'll see 77 to 84 as a spread of temperatures across the area. Lows in the mid and upper 50s overnight with clear skies. Then for our Saturday, another day in the upper 70s to mid 80s with 85 locally. We will then have some thunderstorm potential Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I wanted to mention just quickly, I just saw this come across my desk. New York Police Department is fuming because Mamdani urged New Yorkers to take to the street to protest Netanyahu, creating this chaos. We know fanning the flames with this kind of anti-Semitism and wanting to fuel that flame is very troubling in New York. So Zohran Mamdani is telling New Yorkers to take to the streets to protest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when he visits the Big Apple, and NYPD cops are fuming. The mayor's activist posturing puts police officers on the street in a terrible position. Protesters during the UN General Assembly are nothing new, but when the mayor of the city is actively calling for demonstrations, violent agitators will assume they have permission to cause as much havoc as possible. Okay, let's go to viewer comments. Ken writes in two different topics. The legacy media follows the age-old adage: repeat a lie enough times and it will eventually become the truth. Also, Ken writes, I don't think the sheep will understand. Once they give up their rights to get free stuff and stick it to the rich, they will never get those rights back. It might slightly benefit them now, but it could be devastating for them in the future. Sure, it's about, and isn't that really what the culture is? Instant gratification. Never mind what the future holds. I remember back, and this was years ago, but talking about in radio, where younger people were willing to give up their right to vote for a new iPad at the time. Now think of that in today's culture. Those people would still not have the right to vote, and the iPad would be out of date. But that's that quick, instant gratification. Peter St. O writes that progressives want to tax billionaires first, but you're next on the list. It doesn't stop there. Even if progressives grasp this reality, they'd probably keep pushing a billionaire tax because it's one of their few shticks that pulls well. Of course, it's just the first act of a tragedy. Khan is already pushing for proceeds to seed a one-year universal basic income that would pay millions to sit on the couch, including illegal aliens. It's essentially a venture investment for trillions of dollars in vote-buying bread and circuses forever. The great economist Frederick Bastiat once said, government is the fiction through which everybody endeavors to live at the expense of everybody else. Taxing billionaires and now millionaires is a cheese in the mouse trap. One other quick New York issue before we go. Two quick. Bruce Blakeman has reported, this is great news, reports an extra $1.6 million that he raised in his amended campaign filing. The Republican gubernatorial candidate initial July disclosure fell short of his fundraising claims. Blakeman's campaign told the New York Post that he'd raised $11 million since launching in December. But when the campaign actually filed the July report, it fell at least $3 million short of that total. Oh, and I heard that, so maybe this isn't as good news as we thought. It reflects an additional $1.6 million in contributions. Blakeman originally recorded roughly $3 million in donations to his campaign between March and July. Now his campaign says he received over $4.6 million from donors. So anyway, I don't know what the final number is. They don't have the final number, but they said they've raised more than $11 million to fire Kathy Hochul. So that is good. Back and forth. It is good news. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano reacted to the continued violence inside prison walls, saying these are additional acts of violence, this time deadly. As there was an attack and a fight inside Attica, and another was killed inside Collins Correctional Facility in the past week, saying this could have been prevented. Inmates who are disruptive, violent, and willing to murder another person do not belong among those who simply want to do their time and go home to their families. Corrections officers need the tools and the ability to segregate the most dangerous and violent inmates from the rest of the general population. Unfortunately, HALT severely restricts and sometimes eliminates their ability to do so. It is a fact that during the first 3 years since HALT was implemented, inmate-on-inmate assaults rose by 169%, inmate-on-staff rose 76%. The list goes on. What's it going to take to finally get Albany Democrats to act? Thank you to the Assemblyman. We are out of time. Mark writes in, Mamdani telling people to protest, in my book, puts any destruction or crimes committed by protesters on his hands. Have a great weekend. You have a great weekend as well. I think it will, but I don't think that bothers him. He feels a kindred spirit with that kind of violent agitator. We are out of time. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you to all the guests that we had this week. We always appreciate it. And we'll be back Monday morning starting at 6 a.m. with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, have a fun, safe weekend. We'll see you Monday morning. I look forward to it already.
After having the arthritis for 30 years, I did want to work and keep working until my retirement age. The feet problems I had just made it impossible. The team was excellent. They go through everything step by step, help you right along the way. And after surgery, here I go again. We're back out. Moving around again is just amazing. And I'm very much appreciative of the care I received. It was exceptional.